Yeah. Yeah, but please do that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh my goodness, I say hi to him.
We just found out. Yes, sometimes it goes so fast.
Yeah, things go really.
Yeah, no, that's fine, I'm glad.
Yeah.
Please do that,
I
yes.
think that reminds me of.
Right there, the sign.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, the
I
live's
forgot to
gonna talk.
mention, San Jose Against the War is actually running a divestment campaign on Chevron and on the county and on the county. So you have some flyers, some deeds to spread around if anybody would like them.
Stand right here.
We can just let them say hello and then we can start, yeah.
Nice. Hola María, ¿qué tal? Hola, ¿cómo estás? Bien, 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 gusto de verte. El gusto es mío.
All right.
Yes.
Yes, absolutely, that's what they're.
Okay, we're gonna go ahead and get started.
Thank you.
Guru, everyone.
Guru.
Guru is a Swahili word that means freedom. And it's the way we greet each other in the Guru movement. Before I begin, I'd love to thank the San Jose Peace and Justice Center. And just really appreciate Joan and Nelson for setting this up and giving us this venue. Yeah, please support the San Jose Peace and Justice Center
Yes.
as much as you can. My name is Carol Locke, and I am a Uhuru Solidarity member, and I am the San Francisco Bay Area and the West Coast. And with the Uhuru Solidarity Movement, or USM, was created by the African People's Socialist Party. And what they did is they tasked us to go out into the white community and organize other white people for reparations to the African working class. And it's rooted in the movements of Marcus Garvey, the Black Panthers, and Malcolm X. I do want to salute our leadership, Chairman Omala Yeshitela and Deputy Chair Onazine Yeshitela, who created this whole Uhuru movement. And some of you may have heard of the Uhuru 3. The Uhuru 3 was with Chairman Omala Yeshitela, Jesse Neville, who's the chair of the Uhuru Solidarity Movement, and of course our guest of honor today, Penny Hess, Chairwoman Penny Hess, who is the leader of the African People's Solidarity Committee. So we're so excited to have her here. Actually, the Uhuru movement was headquartered here in the late 70s to the early 90s. And then until it moved to St. Petersburg, Florida, which is where Chairman Omala Yeshitela and Chairwoman Deputy Chair Onazine Yeshitela are from. We also want to salute the courageous Palestinian people who have been fighting for their lives with the US-funded genocide and just really exposing this brutal system that we live in. And I just want to say that I joined this movement 13 years ago. And like many people today, I was just disillusioned and depressed. I didn't understand what was going on in the world around me, why there was endless war, mass imprisonment, overwhelming homelessness, violence constantly perpetrated by the police, mainly on African and Indigenous people disproportionately. And so I knew this wasn't normal, and that no matter what side of the political aisle you're on, the system stayed the same. In fact, it just got worse. And so then I met the Uhuru movement, and I learned of the theory of African internationalism. And I learned that this culture of violence is really because of colonialism and the colonial mode of production. And that really cleared up everything for me. And that this system benefits white people at the expense of most of the world. So that gave me that perspective, and that's the perspective that we adhere to in the Uhuru Solidarity Movement. we see our role as telling the truth about the social system, that it's never been democratic for the majority of the world. And actually, what the party is fighting for is Black power. And currently, the African People's Solidarity Party is growing. The Uhuru movement is growing so much. And they've built programs called the Black Power Blueprint, and it's happening right now in north side of St. Louis, which is 97% African. And they're revitalizing the community and reversing gentrification from taking over. So also just currently, like Saturday, I think, a tornado just ran through the north side of St. Louis in the African community, which has already been devastated for years and causing further devastation. But the party has come in and they're giving food and shelter and providing so much care for the people. And so that's, thank God they're there to be there. We have that perspective of African internationalism, as I said, and we see it growing out in the world right now in front of us with Ibrahim Traore, I hope I'm saying his name right, in Burkina Faso.
Right.
And he just expelled the French
Yes.
and the US.
Yes.
And now they're gaining control over their own resources. That's truly about Black power right there.
Yes, it is.
Yep.
Yes. So here we are in the belly of the beast. That's the US, United States of America. And we're clear about our history as white people, that we are complicit with genocide of the indigenous people and the enslavement of African people. And all that stolen wealth that was gained through rape and torture and pillage and theft. And so we just want to salute our host here, our Penny Hess here. We're so excited to have her. She is going to talk more about what I just mentioned. And she has been working under the leadership of the African People's Socialist Party for over 50 years. And she wrote Overturning the Culture of Violence 25 years ago. You can see right back there. You're welcome to buy one. They're $20 and Penny will definitely sign it for you. And it tells the truth of the history of white people's crimes against humanity. And it argues the case for reparations based on the understanding of the chairman and the African internationalism. You've also heard me just mention the Uhuru 3. Well, what that was an attack on the Uhuru movement by the US government. They sent FBI agents to raid 7 homes and centers of the Uhuru movement and accused them of being Russian agents. They were looking, Penny and Jesse and Chairman Omali Yeshitela were looking at 15 years in prison with like a $250,000 fine each or something like that. And just wanting to silence them. But it didn't work.
No.
Nope.
It didn't work. And we were, some of us in this room were actually there at the trial. We went to court and we beat them. And that was done through the counteroffensive led by Uhuru, the Hands Off Uhuru movement, or campaign, which was led by Mwezi Odom. And that was just major. It really showed the power of the people. And so what we say is not one more dime, not one more day, not one more dime, because nothing, no prison time, no money,
yeah.
you know, it was amazing. It was just so moving.
Great.
Yes.
So what we're going to start with right now is we're going to watch a 7-minute video, which starts with the FBI raids. And it sums up the 2 years of the counteroffensive, which won massive support and galvanized the people to fight for anti-colonial free speech.
Yes. Thank you.
So another round of applause for that. It's electrifying being there, chanting that, and so. Next up, I would love to introduce our dear comrade, Seat Laumina. And she is the one who coordinates the Barrio Defense Committee here in San Jose and the Central Aslan. Oh man, Chico. Thank you. A community organizing center that advocates for the human rights of La Raza and the cooperative action against oppression and exploitation.
Thank you so much. This is a statement, I had to write it out because I think
Yeah.
This is under the banner of the Body Defense Committee of San Jose. We're immensely honored and in full support of the African People's Socialist Party, the Uhuru Movement, and the African People's Solidarity Committee. We salute Chairman Omali Yeshitela, leader of the African People's Socialist Party, for his vision, courage, and relentless determination for freedom from U.S. imperialism, who is responsible for the theft and killing of African people and people all over the world.
Yes.
The African People's Socialist Party is a serious, steeled, and scientifically organized revolutionary organization. The Body Defense Committee had the honor and experience of working with the African People's Socialist Party through the campaign to free Jose Luis.
Yes.
And through their tireless and unconditional organized support, we stopped the state of California from executing Jose Luis
Yep.
and freeing him from prison.
Yes, right on.
The call of the campaign was free Jose Luis, convict the police.
Yep.
Right.
This was a victory.
Yes.
It was a victory because it was in the trenches of the white liberal left in San Francisco, in that the white liberal left feel they must lead the struggles of colonized people when they should be confronting the repressive white settlers who are in power.
Yep.
Colonized people must lead our struggles. During that time, the state of California was campaigning for the 3 strikes you're outlaw, in which the state imposed 25 years to life if someone committed 3 felonies, and the so-called war on drugs and war on crime, which was really the war on colonized people.
Yeah. Yep.
Right.
There was also the polyclass killing because a native was associated. These campaigns not only criminalized colonized people in California, but also were meant to massively construct maximum security prisons called SHUs. Security housing units throughout the state of California. The SHUs are prisons that deny a human being sound, touch, space, maintain a prisoner in solitary confinement, no contact with human beings, and allow no movement 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and for long periods of time. A form of self-destruction so that prisoners will commit suicide or lose their mind. With the campaign to free Jose Luis, the African People's Socialist Party played a decisive and strategic role in exposing how the state criminalizes colonized people by massively inserting drugs into the community and exposing the state and its apparatus as the real pushers of drugs in the barrios and poor working class communities. The African People's Socialist Party exposed the role of the police state with the use of their newspaper, The Burning Spear. Expose the police state in demonstrations, conferences, in confrontations with the courts and the district attorney of San Francisco. The African People's Solidarity Committee valiantly confronted white privilege within these repressive institutions, and we witnessed it in this campaign. The police state consists of the courts, the prisons, the police and its armies, the laws, the welfare institutions, and the schools guided by a government and its system to control colonized people. A government and system that was created as a result of stealing the land and resources and massive killings of our native peoples, further imposing borders and military armies to deny the movement of our people and thus locking us up in their genocidal prisons of hell and expelling us from our ancestral lands. This white settler state calls us illegal aliens, when in fact they crossed the Atlantic Ocean to this continent, stole the land, and massively killed the native people, then declared war against Mexico in 1846 and stole half of the Mexican territory at gunpoint, now states which are California, Texas, Arizona, New Mexico, Colorado, parts of Utah, and Nevada. And now, as we cross into our land, we are hunted down by police military forces called ICE, Migra, DEA, FBI, and white vigilante settlers who lock us up or expel us from our ancestral lands, men, women, and children. Jose Luis was sentenced to 16 years to life in the courts of San Francisco. While he was in prison, the African People's Socialist Party continued supporting the campaign to free Jose Luis. Jose Luis was transported to various prisons and ultimately ended up in the SHU because of his organizing efforts within the prisons. Demonstrations were organized in various prisons, New Folsom Prison, Corcoran State Prison, and the infamous Pelican Bay State Prison. There were demonstrations at the headquarters of the California Department of Corrections in Sacramento. There were hunger strikes exposing what solidarity confinement looks like, with mock shoes in the streets of San Francisco, at the state capitol in Sacramento, Los Angeles, and San Diego. Exposure to shoes was decisive because the public was delirious of these repressive methods. But what was also decisive was that the prisoners themselves began to organize collective and organized hunger strikes throughout California. And it opened up negotiations between the prisoners and the California Department of Corrections authorities. As a result of the prisoners organizing, many were released from the SHU. The longest in the SHU was the 1970s revolutionary activist Hugo Pinel, who was in the SHU for 47 years.
Wow.
Once he was released, he was shot and killed by the California Department of Corrections officers so as to cover up from the public why the many years in the SHU. Not surprisingly, though, nonprofits related to prisons began to emerge, but not to expose the state and prisons as repressive apparatuses to control colonized people or to put the state on trial. Huge amounts of resources were pumped into these nonprofits by the state to pacify people from militantly organizing and shutting down the SHU. And so they continue to exist to this day. These nonprofits are mostly run by white liberal lefts, as well as opportunist individuals that claim to be part of the movimiento or movement, one of which represented Jose Luis when the California Department of Corrections violated his rights and illegally stuffed him in the SHU. This white liberal left lawyer had the disgusting audacity to request Jose Luis to snitch, accusing someone as a gang member, whether it was true or not, because it was one of the ways he could be released from the SHU. Ultimately, Jose Luis defended himself with the help of other prisoners and was released from the SHU in 2016. Jose Luis was set free from prison in 2019.
Yes.
The African People's Socialist Party was instrumental in freeing Jose Luis from the clutches of the state. But the Barrio Defense Committee also learned a great deal from the African People's Socialist Party. Visiting their impressive chapters in Oakland, California, St. Petersburg, Florida, and St. Louis, Missouri, was an example of what revolutionary collective participation looks like, and it was manifested through the powerful and organized force of the people. We learned that a space where people must gather is necessary, bringing confidence from the people that we are serious in defense of our people. Self-sustainability is also crucial by instituting independence, non-intervention, and most of all, no conditions from external interventionists and opportunists. The Barrio Defense Committee learned from the African People's Socialist Party that whatever project or campaign we are involved in, we must be victorious and win.
Yes.
In 2017, the Barrio Defense Committee organized for the release from the SHU in Sacramento of Miguel Araujo, a longtime community activist on both sides of the military border and undocumented. Miguel was falsely accused of murder in Mexico by the repressive government of the then Mexican President Peña Nieto and ordered the Interpol, International Police Criminal Organization, to arrest Miguel through the Immigration Department. They arrested him because he was organizing in support of the Mexican progressive candidate for President Andrés Manuel López Obrador. Miguel was freed from the SHU and prison in 2018 and continues to operate his restaurant and continues to organize in the community.
Yes.
There was the toppling of the genocidal statue of Columbus, despicably housed in the San Jose City Hall for 14 years. There was also the removal of the anti-Mexican figure of the Thomas Felon statue in 2019 that was fought since the 1990s, in which the people almost gave up that struggle. But the Barrio Defense Committee and its allies did not. At this time, we are organizing to recognize and to overturn the criminalization of our revolutionary fighters in California, one of which is Tiburcio Vázquez, exposing how the white settler state has hunted, lynched, and killed Mexicans, stole the land and property since the illegal Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo of 1848.
That's right.
Ultimately, the long-term strategy must always be the struggle and organizing for freedom from imperialism, from its system of genocide, and the taking back of our motherland.
Yeah.
Tierra y Libertad, Chicano power, Mexican power, all power to the people.
Right on. Oh.
I also want to say that if people are interested in working in this campaign of Tiburcio Vázquez, we have a sign-in sheet. And also we have some flyers there about on the table. And we're also, selling raffle tickets because we have to maintain the Centro Atlántico Stock, which is a center where we gather and organize and do other things. But it's independent, and so we have raffle tickets for $5 each. Thank you.
Right on.
Post, Lena, I
This
think we have a
statement,
question,
oh,
Actually, it's a statement.
a statement.
I spent several hours in the middle of the night in the mock shoe at the corner of Powell and Market in San Francisco.
right,
Yeah.
And also, I
Yes,
remember
there-
setting it up on the grounds of the state capitol
Yeah.
in Sacramento.
that's
Mhm.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've all been everywhere.
Okay, can we, another round of applause for Steve Alderman? That was amazing. Really appreciate that profound history and the power of the Mexican people. Yes. So next, we do want to hear a clip from Chairman Omali Yeshitela. He's speaking at the Uhuru Solidarity Movement Convention that we had just this year in March. And as we saw, the US government tried to silence him and the Uhuru Three, and it did not work. So here he is, he's talking about the role of white people in solidarity with the African Revolution.
But the thing is that just in terms of maintaining unity with the struggle of African people in this country, that was the problem that we were dealing with all the time. When we created the African People Solidarity Committee, we ran into, again, the history that African people and the African movement in general had with the white left. And there was a tremendous suspicions of this relationship by Africans about us and the white people, and the white people are probably running everything, and the white people this and the white people that, because that's how it was all subjective determinations about what relationships were about. So that was an aspect of it. But the critical thing that I was just going to mention is that the white left and how it responded to the creation of the African People Solidarity Committee, and how the feminist movement strongly came out in opposition, saying that somehow that APSC was white lesbians working under the leadership of black men. These were progressive white women who were making this kind of line. And then we had one of the most radical left movement, communist movement. In this instance, well, I'm not going to, but come out and say things like that it won't work because white people will not work against their own interests. And that was based on the fact that we were saying that the white people who came into the movement would be working under the leadership of the African working class. And somehow these communists concluded that white people working under the leadership of the African working class was working against your own interests. This kind of garbage that and by the way, I just want to say that during the era of the trials that we've just come through, and during while we were in court and while we were having rallies in St. Petersburg, Florida, it's worth noting that one of the proponents of that line, that statement, that position, joined Hands Off Uhuru, and I think made a $500 contribution the last time I had looked. So, but that was the stance then, and I'm saying that I guess as a prelude to saying, look at us now. Yeah. And the fact is that we were the outliers. We were the strange ones, this relationship that we have. We were the weirdos, etc. And we built a powerful movement, and perhaps the most significant movement that you can find in this country, and one of the most significant movements you will find in the world. And that's the significance of what we're doing now, solidarity with Black Power. Because solidarity with Black Power has come to mean more than what they were distorted as meaning in terms of white lesbians working under the leadership of black men, Jesse. And we're talking about having contributed to the education of really critical forces in terms of being able to recognize the most legitimate reality in the world is that if we're going to get rid of a social system that everybody hates, that's destroying the globe, destroying the wealth of the peoples of the earth, etc., And if we're looking at reality that we're talking about colonialism as the mode of production that's feeding, clothing everybody who has food and clothing and what have you, it makes sense. How could it have made sense for Marxists to say that everybody has the revolution has to be led by the working class on the one hand, and you didn't hear the left saying, no, how can we do that? You know, I got a job, in some other area of the structure of the society. Didn't say that. But working under the leadership of the black working class, that was problematic. I just want to say that, again, we are not part of that left, and we're not asking you to be a part of that left. Because generally speaking, what you're talking about when you're talking about the left is a sort of loyal opposition. And what we're about is not trying to find a way to integrate into this system as the left or the right or anything. We don't give a damn about a left or a right. Our objective is to remove ourselves from the authority of an illegitimate, hostile entity that has taken over the world. Taken over the world, and it defines and redefines left and right almost every 20 years or so. What was left yesterday is no longer the left. What was left before Trump got elected is no longer the left. What was anti-war was no longer anti-war. I mean, they switch heads, switch positions just like that, and we're not going to be locked into that. And I want to say that your presence here validates everything. So much of what we fought for all these years gives it a concrete face. It's a concrete reality today. We've changed the world. And part of changing the world is what we do and what we have done now. And your existence here is incredibly significant, incredibly powerful, and I just wanted to recognize that. It's a long way to get to that statement, but that's essentially what I wanted to say, that we have changed the world, and you are part of that changed world. And we have created a venue for people who want to be opposed to how this system works, to not find themselves having to be whiplashed politically from the Democrats to the Republicans to the Greens to the this to that, etc. We can be united against colonialism. We can have a general program against colonialism. That's what is the defining thing, and we can say that this is what we have created with this extraordinary group of forces, and that the world has been changed. And thank you so much for being a part of Black Solidarity with Black Power. Uhuru.
Hey, Uhuru. So now it is my pleasure and honor to introduce our guest of honor, Chairwoman Penny Hess. She is courageous. She's been ahead of her time, and she wrote a book that you should all purchase back there, and she's going to see it for you. We salute her, Chairwoman Penny Hess.
Uhuru, everybody. I am so happy and honored to be here today. I want to thank the San Jose Peace and Justice Center for being here, for opening up the space for us. And we have been here before, and really want to salute you, gentlemen. Just so powerful to see you again, and all of you who are here today. And I just really have the honor of saluting Mina, who I can't think of the whole history of the Uhuru movement in the Bay Area without you. You
Yes.
have been just an incredible central part of all the years of what we call the Oakland years, the years that the African People's Socialist Party was centered, headquartered in Oakland, not that far from here. And we were always up and down that 880, you were coming there, we were coming here, the whole campaign to free Jose Luis and everything that you have done to bring the anti-colonial struggle of the Mexican indigenous people of this land to the movement as a real face of that struggle, which, you know, the people are winning, and I just really want to see you, and it's an honor to see you today, so I mean that. And you know, of course, I salute Chairman O'Malley Shatella, my leadership. Again, my name is Penny Hess, and I am the chair of the African People's Solidarity Committee, the organization of white people under the leadership of Chairman O'Malley Shatella and the African People's Socialist Party, the Uhuru Movement, the African Revolution. And I want to say that Chairman O'Malley Shatella, who has fought for over 50 years for nothing but the liberation of Africa and African people and the unity of African people and all oppressed and colonized peoples in the world for freedom and liberation. And I just so much appreciate that you raised the question of colonialism here today. And I joined the African People's Solidarity Committee, the organization of white people under the leadership of the African Revolution, with the mandate to go out and win that colonialism is the main contradiction in the world, that it is not a struggle against racism. As the chairman says, he doesn't give a damn what we think about African people. But what he's saying is that African people, just like any oppressed and colonized people, just like the Palestinian people, just like we see the struggles in the Sahel and on the continent of Africa today, it is about power. It is about the return of their stolen land and resources. And that's why the main work and demand of the African People's Solidarity Committee has been for reparation, to take out that we as white people owe reparations to African people and to oppressed and colonized people, and that yes, we can't lead this struggle. The struggle of the people on the planet Earth is led by the colonized.
Yes.
And we, you know, if we look at reality, and we know this is true, that this is a parasitic social system, as the Chairman O'Malley Shatella said, that this country, the system that we take for granted, that we don't even think about, but yet it is soaked in the blood of the indigenous people. It is built on the assault on Africa and the kidnapping of African human beings for hundreds of years, and on the enslavement and stolen labor of African people that built the greatest wealth that has ever been amassed on the planet Earth by any one, you know, one group of people. And this is the basis of the capitalist system and the system we live in, and the colonial domination of the majority of the people on the planet Earth by this US government that backs the genocidal state of Israel as the US outpost in the Middle East, and all other fronts that the US is trying to do. It's trying to take away from Africa, and it always has, you know, their exercising of self-determination that we are beginning to see in a powerful way when we talk about the struggle in the Sahel right now in that part of Africa, but a struggle that's been going on. Kwame Nkrumah, Patrice Lumumba, these were powerful leaders who the US government assassinated. We know with Patrice Lumumba, they not only assassinated him, they chopped up his body so that he could never be, quote, made a martyr. You know, the people could not make him a martyr. They wanted to destroy him because he stood up and said to the US and to Europe that the people of Congo will enjoy the vast resources of the Congo and that they were not going to give them away to Europe. And, you know, when we look at that, I think that the most exploited part of Africa is indeed the Congo, where they call it the nature's belly button, because every mineral, diamonds, uranium, every possible resources there, and the US and Europe are dependent on it. And so when we hear, like statements from Ibrahim Traore, and he's saying, they're gonna have the resources for them, for
Yep.
Africans.
Yes.
And that Africa, as he said, will not kneel down
Mm.
to US power, guns, and everything else that it does to starve the people. So I just want to say that to be under the leadership of the African Revolution, to go out into the white community, it's powerful to be on the side that's kicking the ass of this ruling class.
Yes.
Winning.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Now, and it's serious, as has been said, that this is a life and death struggle for African people, for indigenous people, for oppressed people, certainly for the Palestinian people.
Yes.
And that the unity of the African People's Socialist Party with the indigenous and Mexican liberation movement is absolute. And the unity with the Palestinian people is absolute. And as the chairman said, Africans are Palestinians. And as we don't walk over the bodies of African and indigenous people in this country to get to Palestine, because Palestine is here. And that relationship is between and among colonized people themselves, not the white left that the chairman was talking about, the interlopers that expect to go in and determine for others what the struggle would be, when this struggle is for self-determination and
Yeah,
the voice
Absolutely.
and the voice of African and indigenous people in their own words for themselves, their self-determination. It's a very, very exciting. It's a very exciting struggle.
Yes.
I
We will speak up.
want to, pardon me?
We will speak up.
We will speak up, Carmen. That's great. I want to say, yeah, this is a great period. And that when we talk about, struggling for social justice and peace, then, the only way that there can truly be peace and social justice on this planet is through the self-determination and liberation
Yes.
of African and colonized peoples, and
Yes.
an end to colonialism
Right.
once and for
Mhm.
all.
Yes.
And that this whole concept of colonialism is so critical and so important that we understand that and we adopt that. Because if we're talking about a struggle against racism, we're keeping white people in the center. We're saying that somehow what I am thinking about African and colonized people is going to change their lives. No, it isn't. We could all take unlearning racism, but the police are still gunning down the George
Yes.
Floyd,
Mhm.
the wealth gap, the maternal and infant mortality gap in this country between white people and African people is larger and larger all the time. I was reading that the wealth gap now between, and I'm not talking about income, I'm talking about savings account, the value of your house, the value of your car, and your 401k as white people, and all of these things is basically the gap is over $1 million. And we know, living here in the Bay Area,
Yes.
just one of these little bungalow houses are $1.5 million.
That's right.
And that's resources that white people have to hand down from generation to generation, this whole understanding of generational wealth. And it's like, this is why we owe reparations. This is not a world to live in, because the basis of war, the basis of oppression comes from a system built on the backs of African and indigenous people. And there's no way that we're going to change that except under the leadership of the struggles of African, indigenous, and the Palestinian people. And that is a powerful place to be and to stand. And it is what we must do and must take. And, you know, the chairman is condemning this thing called the white left because it is not just a bad idea. Again, the white left has operated as basically as COINTELPRO.
Yeah,
As
that's right.
COINTELPRO within the African liberation movement. It has done everything possible to say, oh, no, you know, this is what the struggle is going to be, to try to define it, to keep resources away from it, not fight for reparations. And that day is over. That day is over. And this is really a powerful time. And we can see that through, you know, the Palestinian people, the people, you know, on the continent of Africa, and the struggles of colonized here inside the United States. That's not going to stop. That is going, it has been unleashed. The genie is out of the bottle. It will not go back in. And this is what is going to bring about, you know, a new world in which all people can live, no one at the expense of anybody else. But if we don't have that understanding of the leadership of the colonized, then we again, you know, take automatically have the power of the colonizer, you know, the colonizer. And we don't want that. I do know that millions of white people don't want to be in that position. We don't want to be the oppressor. We want to be, you know, with the colonized people who are struggling, but we have to do that in a principled way that takes responsibility for our relationship, you know, and takes a stand for reparations, the return of the stolen resources. So I also did want to say, as has been mentioned, I am one of the Uhuru Three. Chairman Omali Yeshitela was the target of this attack that attempted to silence the voice of the African liberation movement and all the work that the chairman has done over, you know, more than 50 years, but they couldn't do it. They couldn't do it. The chairman brilliantly led the struggle to push back the state attack. In July 29th, 2022, at 5 a.m., the FBI raided 7 homes and offices of the Uhuru movement in 2 states. They came to Chairman Omali Yeshitela's house, to my house, to Comrade Jesse Neville's house, to the Uhuru Solidarity Center, to the Uhuru House in St. Petersburg, and the chairman's house in St. Petersburg, chairman and deputy chair's house. They came with how many tanks, you know, part of it, you might have noticed on one of the videos. I mean, with scores of FBI agents getting out of these armored vehicles, they call it, or tanks surrounding. They had the yellow tape. They were, you know, cordoned off the area in all these different places. And they also took our cell phones immediately and our computers so we cannot communicate with anybody else. It was 5 a.m. in St. Louis Central Time and 6 a.m. in the East Coast in Florida. And they ripped through everything. They took our computers, our cell phones, they took files, they took books. They took a picture and they showed it in court of one of my bookcases in my house, which had one of the books by the chairman sitting on top, sort of standing up on top of the bookcase, and they showed it in court. Like, this is happening. Here she is, you know.
Read that book.
That what they did with this is they charged Chairman Omali Yeshitela, who has fought for nothing else than the liberation of Africa and African people. His entire license, he was in his 20s. And they charged him and Jesse Neville, who's the chair of the Uhuru Solidarity Movement, and myself with conspiracy, no, not conspiracy, with being Russian agents that did not register with the government. We were Russian agents who didn't register with the government, and they charged the chairman with sowing discord for building a movement of, resistance of the discord that exists through the system.
Of one Russia.
Yeah, and so then the second charge was conspiracy to be a Russian agent without registering. So what happened was, when it went to court, the judge dismissed or threw out the charge of being a Russian agent, but convicted us of conspiracy to be a Russian agent. How can we be conspiracy to do something that it was shown we didn't do?
Right.
Jury.
Yeah.
Jury.
So, we were convicted. So right now, we experience probation. Chairman, myself, and Jesse are on probation. And I want to make it clear that Chairman O'Malley Chatella was the target of this attack, as the African Liberation Movement always is and has been. And in a way, the attack on Jesse and myself are part of the attack on the chairman, because, part of why the Solidarity Committee was formed was, as the chairman says, to break the isolation of the African Liberation Movement, that we could be out in the white community, organizing support, which we've done for many, many years. So we did not get any prison time. We did not have to pay a fine, and we could have gotten 15 years in prison, and we could have gotten a total of $500,000 each in a fine. So we didn't get that. That's why we were saying no dime, no time. We didn't get that, but they did give us each 300 hours of probation, like community, like court supervised community service hours, which the judge said, well, you can do that standing on your head. Well, the thing is, you do have to go through the process of doing it. You have to go through a nonprofit, and they sign in your hours, and, it's,
Ridiculous.
but we are going through it, and we will do it. In some ways, it's good because we're, out there telling people that, like, what happened.
Well, you're already doing community service.
Yeah.
Not what the government wants.
Part of our community service. And so, I just wanted to say that when we finish our community service, then we will put in a motion. Our lawyers will put in a motion to just throw out the case, to throw it out. We also our lawyers will be filing an appeal, but the appeal takes and can take years to even be heard. That's how going through the court system is very slow. So we might hopefully be done with this whole thing before the appeal is actually heard. But I think all of these steps are really important. And back in the 60s, and some people here probably remember, like, when Afeni Shakur was on trial, and the Panther 21, and all of these different cases of that period, how there were political lawyers and Kunstler, and just so many
Lynn
great,
Stewart.
brilliant lawyers who came to the defense. Well, this isn't that kind of period now. So there's not like, the political lawyers coming to the thing. But what happened was we went through a certain sort of service or organization in Portland that helps you get lawyers for this kind of thing. And we had to, we have a campaign raising the resources to pay them and the court costs, and it has been very, very successful through Hands Off Uhuru. But they, the chairman, like, politically schooled them on what it means to be a political lawyer, and they really just heard it. And so there are these new, political lawyers now. They just had total swag in court. And the chairman's lawyer, Addie, when she went in, she listed all the things that the party does, and is it illegal? And then my lawyer, they're a team, but we have individual lawyers, Leonard Goodman. They're asking I guess, the state, the prosecutors, they put the prosecutors on the stand, and they said, is it a,
Crime.
how do you say, was it a crime?
National
But I thought it was
security.
national security,
Oh,
national
right,
security
right.
danger to hold a demonstration. No. What about to demand reparations? And it just like goes through the whole thing. Like, no. Goes, my case rests. So it was a really powerful court, a political trial. And as you can see from some of the pictures, scores and scores of people came out. I mean, I can't even remember, or people still say, "Oh, I was there," and it was very, very exciting. The chairman built the coalition called Hands Off Uhuru, which has many organizations across the political spectrum, as the chairman is saying, because some of the people are, don't fall under the white left at all. They might be, I don't know, a different politic, but this redefines it, because the question is, where do you stand in relation to the struggle of African people and the struggle for African liberation inside the US? That's the question.
Yeah.
So it was an incredible victory. Just the support from everywhere was, I mean, it was just exhilarating. It was exhilarating to see, and the struggle is going on. People came back. This was the court, the trial was held down in Florida, and the sentencing was in September, and the sentencing was in December, and a lot of people came back again. So it was very, very, very successful, really, really a victory. And Chairman O'Malley-Shatella was amazing. Our lawyers were amazing, and it was very powerful. I just wanted to say also very quickly, the thing that the chairman taught us when we very first started the Uhuru African People Solidarity Committee and Uhuru Solidarity Movement is, again, that the struggle is not against racism, it's against colonialism. And colonialism is not something of the past. It's not a bad phase that the US government went through, or Europe. It is the DNA of the system that we live in. It is the essence. Colonialism is the essence. As the chairman said, there wouldn't be an America without colonialism. And we can't look at it as something that's, well, the whole system's okay except for colonialism, because colonialism is the essence of the situation that we live in and the basis for the wealth and prosperity of white people. And that's why he calls it the colonial mode of production. And there might be people in here who have read Marx and Engels, but mode of production means how a society feeds, clothes, and houses itself. What is the method of creating the resources necessary to live in a society? That is a mode of production. And this could be, capitalism, socialism, but colonialism is capitalism. This is the basis of capitalism that we live in today. So this is what we take on. This is what we lay out, and it is something that white people can be part of. We can as well be out there struggling against colonialism, and it's in our interest, like the chairman said. This is our interest, to change the world, to tell the truth about how it truly is. So I don't know, it's almost, my time is up.
Well, no, we have questions coming in already on
Okay.
YouTube, so I'm not sure if I should wait. Karen. Okay.
I just wanted to revisit the book, Overturning Culture Violence. Now, I wrote this book because Chairman O'Malley-Shatella gave us from the Solidarity Movement a mandate. Tell the truth to white people about what white people have done. Like, we have to look at the crimes against humanity that the white population has participated in, because there couldn't have been the kidnapping of an entire population there. You know, there couldn't have been this massive lynching and genocide carried out here without the participation of the white population. And so, you know, the white population has been part and parcel of the carrying out of colonialism, you know, in this country and around the world. And so I wrote this book, and I put in it, I tried to use books that were easily accessible. This is not something that I went to the stacks of the library and, you know, I just looked up using books like Ward Churchill's books about the indigenous struggle and the history, and books like 100 Years of Lynching, which is just newspaper articles of lynchings, and you know, Open Veins of Latin America, books that many of us have read, but put it together in a way to show, you know, nobody has ever said, like, well, what is the relationship of white people to these books that are showing different aspects of the colonial violence and terror against African and First people. Anyway, so I just want to read, this is a quote by the chairman, and I called this chapter, after what the chairman is talking about, the inescapable dialectic. And dialectic, I guess people in this room probably know, but a dialectic is a unity of opposites, a unity of opposites. So this is how the world and everything changes, you know, turning into the next phase. So the chairman said, there is an inescapable dialectic, a unity of opposites to be found in the emergence of Euro-Americans as the subjects of history, and Africans and others becoming its objects. Like, to me, wow, that is so profound, because all the history books are written in our voice.
Right.
Yes.
You know, and really, until, you know, a few years ago, there wasn't even anything in the voice of the African, you know, who's getting ready to facing a lynch mob, or, you know, or the indigenous person who is struggling to live on their land. And increasingly there are more books, some books that are starting to tell this story from the voice of the oppressed. But this is why he says, you know, white people have named ourselves the subjects of history. We're the real people. And that, as he said, Africans and others are its objects. Clearly, there is an inescapable relationship between the great wealth of the white world and the impoverishment of the rest of us, upon whose backs the entire intricate capitalist edifice and capitalist activity rests with ever growing anxiety. And by that, yes, the struggles of the people of the land. That's a really great quote. And so let's go to the questions if you want to now.
You can go up and open up
Oh, sure.
the questions.
Okay.
Yeah, I really appreciate your overview.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, right on.
We want to hear from the public questions, but I'm gonna go ahead and open it up. And I just want to ask you, Penny, can you talk about the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee and their significance and how they paved the way for African People Solidarity Committee?
Okay, well, that's a really good question.
It's in the book
Does
too.
anybody from probably my generation would remember the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, or SNCC as it was called? And this was the leading organization that coordinated the summer project in Mississippi and in the early 1960s, and was out there, you know, white people going down to the South to stand in solidarity with African people who were struggling against the terror that they were facing as they, you know, as this movement grew up for the liberation of African people in such a historic way. And one of the things, and SNCC, and there's so much to read about it and to know about it, it was you know, it's just amazing. There were so many different forces and characters in it. But one of the things that SNCC did was in 1966, in Atlanta, they call it the Atlanta Project, they wrote what is called the Vine City Paper. And the Vine City Paper was a paper that said, basically, the struggle is not civil rights, the struggle is for Black power. And that was a very important, just a transference of that movement of the time. And they called on white people to go back into the white community because they had allowed, it had just been the reality that white people could be in leading roles in the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee. And they said, no, SNCC is going to be it's going to be an African organization. So what we're saying is we want white people to go into the white community and stand in solidarity with African people. And that didn't happen. I mean, white people left and went back to our neighborhoods, but we didn't do that. We didn't take that on. So in 1970, 10 years after the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, that's when Chairman Omali Shatella formed the African People Solidarity Committee to give white people the opportunity to take that stand with the mandate to go into our community, to organize other white people, just like ourselves, to fight for reparations to African people. And that is what we've been doing. And as one of the leaders of SNCC from that time, who's part of the Uhuru movement, Afia and Gwanza, she was like the only Chairman Omali Shatella carried out the Vine City Paper, that's what was being called for. And it's very historic and very profound. And really, history changing. Oh.
What year was that?
Not well, the
ones.
that was 1966.
Okay.
The APSC was from 1976.
Sure. Oh, go ahead.
Well, the quote you read by the chairman regarding ever increasing anxiety, that's what we're experiencing now. I can't tell you how many friends, especially of my generation, and family members who are anxious and afraid. And while I understand that, part of their anxiety is their worldview.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. Yeah, that's what the chairman's saying. You can jump off that pedestal. You don't have to sit there and have unity with this government, and that you can be under the leadership of the colonized. Yes.
Well, also add that anxiety comes from their worldview, which is rooted in the current economic conditions facing our country right now, which is increasingly unstable quality of life. No one is quite sure of what to do with the future. What would we say as socialists and Marxists who who are aware of the historical material conditions of our time? What do we say to the people who may not be politically educated and may not know what the future for them will look like?
I think that stand on the side of the struggles of the people, of oppressed people, that's the only way. And that's where we can, first of all, we can be part of a struggle that is changing the world. And secondly, and we can see that change. But we also, like the chairman says, we have to take our chances just like everybody else in the world. White people have to be the same conditions as others. And I think that's really exciting because I think that, I think a lot of white people are very acutely aware of the position we have and we don't know what to do. Well, this is what we can do, and it's not saying it's not going to be hard. It's not going to be a time of struggle coming up, but struggle is a good thing. Struggle is a good thing. And it's scarier when there's no struggle. we want to be aware where the people are struggling. And this is how the world changes, and we can be part of the leadership. I appreciate that.
We'll struggle together. Thank
Yes.
you, Chairwoman.
All right, thank you.
Yes, so we have some questions from YouTube. Comrade Don Hammonds,
Okay.
Los Angeles. Yeah, Uhuru Don. So there's three questions. So let's see. I'll read the one. It says, can Chairwoman Penny talk about the history of AISO? Does she know about the context of its development? How would it compare to SNCC? I don't know what.
I am not aware of AISO. What does that stand for?
Okay, maybe Don, you can clarify what that stands for. I don't know that we can address that, but there's another question that may be something that the chairman would be, answering, but it says, how can we unite African and non-African students and intellectuals under African internationalism?
I mean, I think that is what the party is.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
Everybody, I mean, I do want to say that the internationalism, what we call internationalism, the unity of the African People's Socialist Party with oppressed and colonized peoples around the world is, as I said, it is absolutely, it is what the party is, it is that. And I was telling this the other day when I was at another thing, but in the 1980s, in the early 1980s, when I joined, and I think if we look back, the struggle with Palestinian people was back then.
Yeah.
Too. There was, the 1964 war and the Shabra and Shatila, and all of the struggles that have gone on. They've been seriously fighting since 1948. And they will continue, and they will not stop. And in the early 80s, I think it was, the chairman was invited to speak at a predominantly Palestinian Arab event that was held in San Francisco at I think at San Francisco State, in the auditorium, and it was a huge auditorium, and it was almost all Arab and Palestinians from all over the state were there. And it was very powerful. And it was talking about, the liberation of Palestine and that struggle. And the chairman gave a solidarity statement. He only had a few minutes, but, he said something like, they call the Palestinians the terrorists. He goes, well, I am proud to be among the terrorists, and it was just everybody, the whole room started chanting, the people united will never be defeated, and stamping their feet at it. The children couldn't even speak anymore. It was very deep. And I mean, I think that kind of internationalism, when it does have the opportunism, not the opportunism, when it fights the opportunism that tries to divide the various nationalities of people, but when it is there and it fights for that unity, it is very, very powerful, and it is what is winning on this planet. Uhuru. And in the hands off Uhuru, for example, the coalition, one of the very first organizations to join the coalition was the Leonard Peltier Ad Hoc Committee. And that was, I think we spoke here last year as part of that. And, that is just, and of course, the Leonard, they were forced to get him out this year. And that's been after struggling to do that since the 1970s. So it was a very, very significant victory for them. And it was very important that they were part of the Hands Off Uhuru as well. And many other forces fighting for various fronts of the national liberation, including Union de Barrio and American Indian Movement and many others. It was really, really, really powerful to see.
He says that,
and I just want to say one
oh,
thing,
yeah.
because white people are a minority.
Yeah.
White people are a profound minority in the world, but yet control the majority of the resources of the world. Something like 80% of all resources are in the hands of white people. And this is about the whole world coming together, and white people can join that, under the leadership. And, African, indigenous, and other Palestinian people and Arab peoples are the vast majority of this planet. And that is what is being asserted. And white people, like the chairman said, We have to take our chances, just like anybody else on this planet. So.
Yeah. Oh, I was just gonna say real quick, so, Don Hammonds, who's in Los Angeles,
Okay.
says, AISO stands for African Internationalist Student Organization.
Oh, yeah. I do.
And then he also
Okay.
says,
Right.
can you, do a call to register people for African Liberation Day facilitated by the Uhuru Western Region in San Diego on May 24th.
Are you gonna
I-
do that?
I'm not, I can't go to San Diego,
No,
but,
I
oh,
mean.
oh yeah, we can announce it. Yeah, we can announce it. Yeah.
But if you have the flyer, yeah, of course we.
Yeah.
will do that by the end of this. And what is your name again?
Yes, my name is Tim.
Tim,
Yeah.
okay, yeah. Good to meet you. Tim.
Yeah. And I also want to add that white people is only a concept to describe white power, because there are many peoples who consist of white, like French, Italian, Caucasian, Irish people. The Irish peoples, they've been a part of our solidarity movement historically. It's whenever I meet white people, I'm very interested to know about their history, because we are all in this together. It doesn't matter.
For sure.
We all come from somewhere.
Yeah, I mean, and I agree, whiteness is a concept that is built off of colonialism.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that, that white people can take a stand, and I do agree that historically, the colonization of Ireland, and especially Northern Ireland, is one example, and possibly the only example. I know Trump was trying to say Afrikaners. No, but it is very it's very important that we realize that is a concept, but at the same time, it's a concept that whole structures of power in this world are built on.
Exactly.
And
White
so,
supremacy.
yeah, so we need to be part of, that's what this is turning over. It's like, oppressed and colonized peoples are the pedestal, and they're shaking it, this edifice, as the chairman was saying, of white power. So it goes to the trash bin of history, yeah.
So it seems to follow along too that the Christian religion is very much involved in colonialism. Is that true?
Well, the history of that is certainly, and I was raised Catholic, that is very true for the Catholic Church, because if you look, first of all, I mean, if you want to get into that history, the Catholic Church was absolutely instrumental in the missions here,
Yes.
and the genocide.
Yes.
These priests worked to death and abused in probably a myriad of ways indigenous people, who they say that, all throughout the coast of California, I think every major city, Los
Throughout the
Angeles.
continents.
Yeah, they have, that's right. And they have these missions, and missions. And those missions are colonial Catholic Church thing. And then, and then it was also played a key role in dividing the world.
Yes.
Through, saying, okay, Portugal can have Brazil, and, all of this kind of stuff. So it's certainly played a key role in colonialism, and still does.
Yeah, and the mandate to evangelize, isn't that also that sense that,
Yeah,
you know?
that's so true. Yes, and to convert.
Yeah, the savages.
Yeah, exactly.
The Jesuits were slaveholders,
Yeah, they were.
and one of their big universities on the East Coast, when it went into some amount of debt, the Jesuits solved that by selling part of their slaves.
Right.
Yeah, back in the day, and I just want to
That's
say,
great.
I did attend the Jesuit University, Marquette, in Milwaukee. And yeah, I mean, they absolutely, all of that history is true, but they wouldn't tell you that when you were a student, but.
Can I just add on that the British crown that, colonized this country got most of their wealth through slavery.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, there's,
Absolutely.
not just
They're
churches, but
absolutely through
kingdoms
the
and-
world.
Right,
Yeah.
right. And they used to say that, the sun never set on the British
Yep,
Empire.
yep,
and that
yeah,
just
yep.
shows how
All around the world.
They were proud of that, so.
Yes, they were. Yes, they were. Absolutely.
And also, I think the Berlin Conference, where Europe divided up Africa so they would fight amongst each other,
Mhm.
wasn't that called for by, under the leadership of the Pope
I
at the
think the
time?
Pope played a role in that.
Papal.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely there.
When the,
Philomena.
when the invaders came from Europe to this continent, they brought with them the religion.
Mhm.
They brought with them the religion and the sword.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And that's how they exterminated most of the indigenous people, not just here, but throughout the two continents.
Mhm. Absolutely, and the Caribbean,
And they
yeah.
continue to do that.
Yes, yes, and I've heard the saying by, I think maybe American Indian or indigenous people that, you know, when the Europeans came, indigenous people had the land. And the Europeans brought the Bible. Now the indigenous people have the Bible and the white people have the
That's right.
land. But they part of serious way that they stole the land and committed the genocide.
And that's how they pacify us as well.
Yes, absolutely. Uhuru. Any other?
Right, I think
Any
that's,
other
Questions?
I don't see any right here.
Okay, so,
Any other questions here? Does anybody want to come on? Kind of this stuff.
any other questions?
All right, great.
Great.
All right.
It's been really powerful again I want to thank so much Joan, and great to be here again and just really salute you and the great work that you're doing here. So great to see Citalina.
Yeah, great to see you all. Yes.
Victory to the indigenous Mexican people of this land.
Yeah, we will continue, even though there's a lot of, they're always looking for ways on how to put down pacifier people,
Oh,
using
absolutely.
different tools to pacify people, but we have to continue, whether they like it or not, it doesn't matter. Our focus is land and liberty.
Uhuru.
Yeah, Uhuru.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you so much. That was amazing. And now I'd love to call up Comrade Wendy Snyder and Comrade Redbeard or David Reardon.
David Reardon.
Yes. Alex Redbeard. And we're going to make a call for donations.
Donations and members.
And
So I know that, what just happened? Uh-oh. So I think we should have a presentation. Ooh, Something just got. Oh, I know.
Showing European.
I think it's coming up now. All right, so we are making a call for members and donations. So yeah, I just want to give another round of applause for everybody here showing up, great discussion, that was excellent. And yeah, and we're talking about unity through reparations. We do it as a chant. So when I say unity through, you say reparations. Unity through reparations. Right on. So this is our third event in 3 cities. So we had our event in Oakland on Tuesday. Yesterday was San Francisco. Now we're in San Jose. We had a goal to raise, next slide, please. $1,500. We are actually at $1,297, although I have $3 in my purse, so I'm just gonna make it an even $1,300. So I'll get my $3 out. And we are almost there. We have Comrade Pete Yarschuk, who couldn't be here tonight, but he made a pledge of $100. So want to see if anybody would like to match him. And that could be someone on YouTube or Facebook or someone in the room. So we can start off with that. So now we're at 1,400. Right on. And this goes towards. Yeah, we're gonna talk about the tornado, don't worry. So this actually goes towards the work of the Uhuru Solidarity Movement, to put these types of events on. And so Kara's passing out the cards where you can become a member. I know we have Joan, who's already a member. So I invite you to, make a one-time donation to become a member, or, you can become a sustainer. There's different levels of sustainerships. Becoming a member is really a way that you can be part of the reparations fight back. And that's, specifically calling on white people in particular, because that's what we're mandated to do, is to go out and organize white people. Next
And
slide. Yeah, go ahead.
also, becoming a member gets you all the current information coming out of the Uhuru Movement, African People's Socialist Party, and Black Power Blueprint.
Yeah, and can you say a little bit about why you make reparations?
Well, I've been working in Uhuru Solidarity for several decades, and I've come to understand that everything I do or give, time, money, resources, I've come to understand that that's reparations. And I also understand that the United States is built on stolen land with stolen labor. The African People's Socialist Party back in the 70s estimated that to be $4.1 trillion. And I benefited by that, and that's been clear for a while. But my current realization is that I am giving reparations because I want to repair myself
That's right.
and my relationship
Great.
to this system and my family's relationship to the system.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm doing it, and I'd like to contribute $20
Right on.
towards the goal.
Yeah, I really appreciate that, because I think that, we do this, this is not, it's not charity. And I think let's salute Chairman Amalia Shatella.
Yeah,
And I know
great
that you can go through these slides. These are salutes. Deputy Chair Ona Zanaya Shatella, you may or may not know who she is, but she is the visionary and the architect behind the Black Power Blueprint. And we're going to say a little more about that, but we just want to salute her. This is a picture, in front of the courthouse, with the lawyers, the
legal team. Right
yeah, the
there.
legal team.
Leonard Goodman.
Yeah, Addie
Turkey
Goodman,
Akbar
Akbar.
and Addie,
Yeah, so those are the fight back lawyers that got schooled by Chairman Amalia Shatella. All right, next slide, please. And yeah, Chairwoman Penny Hess, I love that picture. We were so happy that day. Next, and there's Chair Jesse. So and also Vice Chair Amanda. She is the vice chair of the Uhuru Solidarity Movement. Also Jesse's wife. So the work we do is to put on events like this, but also raise funds for something called Black Star Industries that is has many aspects to it. We're going to show you next slide. Building independent anti-colonial economy. Next slide. And then these are some of the aspects of it. You want to just say a few words? So I'm not talking all the time. Sorry.
Well, I've been to St. Louis several times, and I've seen the Black Power Blueprint, which right now comprises about 20 properties. The city of St. Louis had a plan to defund the North Side Black community, just let it rot, and land bank the property for white gentrification.
Yeah.
And because the land banking was a legal thing, the Uhuru Movement and the African People's Socialist Party were able to start acquiring land and buildings. And several of them have been knocked down to create an Uhuru House Community Center, a outdoor basketball court, a community garden, and there's some extensive plans to redevelop the others. I started in Uhuru Foods and Pies in around 1980 or 81, and that was my primary. I was a full-time worker, a truck driver. This was my volunteer work. And I spent several decades selling food, making pies, etc. And that was centered in SF Bay Area, but has since moved to St. Louis. And now, under the Black Power Blueprint and the African People's Education and Defense Fund, we've acquired a restaurant that we're renovating in the community. And we're rebooting Uhuru Foods and Pies in St. Louis. And for the record, we also do them in St. Petersburg, Florida.
Thank you for that. And then, yeah, there's many other institutions, so.
Everybody is welcome to come.
Yeah, everybody
Come
should
and
come to St. Louis. It's really, really powerful.
Yeah, you can get a tour.
We have a couple notable comments on YouTube. Kitty Riley says Uhuru and salutes the Barrio Defense Committee and the leader, Ciplamina, aka Ketsa, and the campaign to free Jose Luis Alvina and expose the brutality of the prison system and the use of the shoe. So yeah, Comrade Kitty is watching. And then also Allison Haney says Uhuru from APSC in St. Louis, salute Barrio Defense Committee and the San Jose Peace and Justice Center, Uhuru Solidarity Movement, all the comrades, Chairwoman Penny Hess and the chairman. So thank you for that. Next slide. Yeah, so, you know, it is not charity, you know, it's solidarity. And it's just such a difference, right? We know that charity just maintains the system. You know, you know, the billionaires, the ruling class and the, you know, people aspiring to be that, they put on these huge galas and fundraisers and throw crumbs. And it's like, well, this is not that, right? This is very grassroots. It's growing, you know, it's clear about, you know, why there's poverty and degradation and oppression. You know, it's in the hands of African people and indigenous people that we want to support. They're having power. And so this is our stand against colonialism, and it does repair, you know, the damage in us from being complicit, you know, with all this genocide and colonialism. And so that's very powerful. Next slide. So yeah, so where are we at with the money?
So, you said 800.
Okay, so yeah, so we got 1,300 and then Pete with the
100 and
100.
Red Bear just gave 20.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I can take other donations of Joan, 20.
Great.
Great, and Miranda,
Mhm.
$10.
Right
Awesome.
on.
Wanda.
Is this,
This is from this lady.
no, it's right, this
Oh,
gentleman here.
from
Oh,
Nelson.
great, thank you, Nelson.
Nelson.
Okay. I'm gonna call you out.
Anything else?
We've
So
got
we're doing
$20, or I'm sorry, $40 from Nelson, thank
Wow,
you
thank you so much.
Serena, and we've got 25 from Serena. And Janine, Comrade Janine, $20, wonderful, this is great.
Right on. So we don't, do we have a
I'm not
count yet?
I'm not ready
Okay,
to
yeah,
tell
yeah,
it,
yeah. So we'll get a count and come back, but I think we're pretty well near our goal.
Or over.
I think probably over our goal.
Lamina,
So-
$5.
All right. Thank you, everyone in the room. And yeah, so great. I think, is there one more slide? I'm sorry, I forget. Okay, so yeah, so we are almost at the time. So what we're gonna do is give you some announcements, including Kara's gonna talk a little bit about the Reparations Legacy Project. And then we have some slides just about our upcoming meetings, and also we gotta talk about the tornado. Let's just move through, I guess, the next slides. If you can pull those next slides up, awesome.
And I just
Okay.
wanna say Tim just donated $10.
Right on, thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, and then we we have about maybe 10 minutes of announcements, and then, you know, plan to get your book and get it signed by Chairwoman Penny. So
Okay, great.
he's doing accounting.
Yeah. Okay, so now I'd like to introduce something to you called the Reparations Legacy Project, as you can see right here. And we've been talking about reparations, and that's what we are tasked to do. And Uhuru Solidarity Movement is organized for reparations to African people and all colonized people. And so, as the chairman says, that is the most principled way we as white people can stand in solidarity, is through reparations. And it also allows us to enter into humanity, because we've been living at the pedestal, on the pedestal of stolen land, of just enslavement, of all the things that we've seen for 600 years. And so we want to repair, we want to rectify that. And what the difference is with Reparations Legacy Project, and if you could go to the next slide, is we ask the question, what will your legacy be? Next slide. So what we want to do is we want to go out into the moneyed sector. As Penny was saying, white people make up such a small minority of the population of the world. I think it's like 16%, but yet hold 80 or 90% of the world's wealth. And there's so much wealth out there just being hoarded. And there's people who want to actually give that away for reparations. So we want to go into those areas where people have access to social, generational, and financial wealth, and they want to take a stand in repairing that damage of the slavery. Can you go back? I just want to read that. And the ongoing exploitation of African people through that redistribution of resources toward the Black self-determination projects of the Uhuru movement, which we talked about earlier, called the Black Power Blueprint, happening right now in St. Louis. So, yeah, that's next slide. So again, as Wendy was saying, these reparations, it's not philanthropy, it's not charity, which just maintains the status quo. It keeps white people at the center, controlling everything. It is actually Black power, and that's what reparations will bring. Next slide. So we want to just honor our past reparations legacy project donors. And you can see an array of faces here. We're entering a new phase in 2025, and we want to raise, by the end of June, $25,000 to go right to the programs of the Black Power Blueprint. And that's the Reparations Legacy Project.
Oh.
Yeah.
I have a question. How much do
Yeah.
you have to give to be reparations legacy?
Well, we're kind of determining that in different levels, but it can be anywhere from 10% of your income to even just $1,000. And really anyone who's donating is a reparations legacy project donor. But yeah, like we said, we want to find those people who have like access to major wealth and get them on board too, because
Yeah.
All right.
And just to say.
Yeah.
A lot of them are here. San Jose, which is the Silicon.
The Bay Area.
Yes,
Yeah.
like.
We gotta meet him, so if you know
anybody,
anybody.
but just,
Yeah.
you know, the greatest wealth, I think, of the
Yes.
entire United States.
I think California is the 5th largest economy in the world,
Yeah.
maybe even, yeah.
Yeah.
So, and it's a lot of it's concentrated here and in
Yes.
LA, and so,
Yeah.
yeah. Right here in the belly of the beast, and this is
Yeah.
where we can be to get it.
We're not here to be digested, we're here to cause a stomachache.
Right.
All right.
All
All right. So, speaking of money in the room here with all of because we really appreciate every donation that is made, you know, the power of the people. So we raised $233 here,
Right.
tonight. And that brings our tour, fundraising to 1,530. So we went over our goal, which is really exciting. Yeah, we did it. So that's great. So a few more announcements and then we'll end the live stream and have the book signing. Next slide, please. So Western Regional Meeting, there's a QR code if anybody wants to scan. We are having our West Coast Uhuru Solidarity Movement meeting on Zoom. I just want to invite everybody here to attend. I coordinate the West Coast organizing, and it's my honor to do that. And we have members in Puget Sound area, so Seattle, Olympia, Tacoma, also members in Portland, members in LA and San Diego, and around the Bay Area. So we invite you to be a part of it. And that's going to be a week from tonight. So, and if we'll also send it out if you signed in, you know, you'll get an email about it as well. Next slide. Oh yeah, so if San Francisco, we have this slide from last night because we had a San Francisco meeting. And should I go ahead and just describe what you do?
Sure.
Yeah, okay. So David, AKA Redbeard, lives on Waller Street right near in Lower Haight Street. If you know anyone in San Francisco, our next Bearing Witness for Palestine is going to be June 14th from 1 to 2. We go out there for an hour. We bring our victory to Palestine, victory to Black Liberation banner. David, aka Redbeard, has organized his neighbors, and we met so many people. We just go out there for 1 hour, but there's so much support in that community, and it's very moving. This is young Dahlia, who is 7 years old on the bullhorn. She's amazing, and yeah. So if anyone's out there in San Francisco, can show up just on the corner of Fillmore and Haight Street. So
Okay, great.
yeah, next slide, please. So this is the campaign that's currently going on because the tornado hit Saturday, literally hit the Black Power Blueprint neighborhood,
The African working class.
African working class neighborhood.
Just impoverished.
Yeah.
neighborhood.
Yeah. So now the Uhuru House, I think the power is back, right?
It's
And finally
it's
back, and then
back on for most of
it's
it.
been a hub for the last several days of people bringing donations, making donations, and the community coming through to get food, water supplies. And
People, just to say, so many people, the roof of their house was blown off. And different programs and buildings of the Uhuru movement. Trees were down, uprooted, like the whole roots came up. And the city forgot to push the button to have the sirens go off. And people got killed because of that, because they were sitting in their cars, because the city does have these sirens that go off, and usually nothing happens, but you go in your basement or you take shelter. And they forgot to push the button, and people were in their cars, and trees fell on their cars. And I think close to like 20 people were killed in that neighborhood. So, and it showed pictures in the local newspaper of, people like, we're in our house, a whole wall was off, they're sitting on their couch, and they're just, it's
Yeah.
very serious.
so, yeah, so we'll definitely, take note, blackpowerblueprint.org/Northside Disaster Fund. We definitely want to spread the word about that. And actually, the next slide, there's going to be a community event that will be also on Zoom. So this will be at 4:30 Pacific next Wednesday. And that's gonna go into detail about what Chairwoman Penny said about the total disdain that the city has for the North Side community. And do you want to come up and so people can see?
Yeah, I just wanted to say that, and I hope people can tune into that,
Yeah, oops.
but that, that what happened, what has happened is that the Uhuru movement, the Uhuru House, which is a really serious, a very important center in the north side of St. Louis, was able to get different nonprofits did bring water and other resources so that the Uhuru movement is able to distribute this and people can come, and even to have a charging center there, because they got power on. Some people still don't have their power, so just to charge their phone. And the story, I think, of one person who came because when people are, under government supervision a lot, they have to wear an ankle bracelet. And we know the prison population based on this colonial reality. And so they have to get that charged.
Right.
They have to get their ankle bracelet charged. So they had to get it charged. And if they don't, they could be, taken back to jail. So it's like a really serious thing. And it was a powerful thing. And the chairman walked through the neighborhoods and went live, and people were just coming out, and the community was helping, cut down trees and get it out of the way, and just everything. It was really great. And the whole community came together to take this situation on, as the African community does. So it was very powerful.
Thank you. I think that's the done with the announcements. So you can close us out and there's go ahead. Oh, yeah. Sorry, I'm used to being you. You go ahead.
for those of us who are in person, would like to share these events to, our comrades, where can we find the website to do the graphics and posters? Into these events?
Well, handsoffofuru.org and also the Burning Spear. Newspaper is the newspaper of the Uhuru movement. And they have, in fact, that is the calendar for the whole movement is the Burning Spear events page. And you'll see, events going on around the US. There, yeah.
Thank you.
Well, just thank you so much for everyone being here. And thank you, Chairwoman Penny, for just the amazing talk that you gave. See the did I say it wrong?
Yes, I know you didn't.
Okay, thanks.
It's okay.
Yeah, for, what you gave to us and that history and, we just learned so much. We would love for you guys to check out Penny's book, Overturning the Culture of Violence. It's back there. And, we have a book signing. There's also other literature. We do have the Burning Spear, as Penny mentioned earlier. That is the, newspaper that's been around for 50 over, well, maybe even 60 years now. And it's the longest running, Black Power newspaper out there. And so, yeah, thank you so much. And I just want to close out saying unity through
Reparations. Yes.
San Jose Peace and Justice Center is collaborating with Grace Baptist Church, just 3 blocks from here, and we're showing No Other Land, which is the Oscar-winning.
Yeah. I want to come to that.
So I'm gonna pass these out, please.
Thank you.
Please register,
Yeah.
huh?
Yeah.
Great. When is that?
June 7th,
June 7th.
June 7th at 6:30. Grace Baptist Church.
I do want to.
Make an announcement
Yeah.
as well. San Jose Against War is hosting a divestment campaign on genocide, and we'd like you all to take part.
Right. Yeah.
When is that?
The ongoing petition, sign up to be a part. And speak on Chevron.
Yes.
That's from all the conflicts are conflicted in the
Yes.
situation.
Thank you.
I unfortunately won't be here, but I do want to see this. I haven't seen this all.
It's excellent.
Yes, that's yeah.
Yeah, this is the first time in San Jose that it's shown.
Oh, great.
You won't see this in big theaters.
No, I know.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm really hoping to come. I think I can.
Yeah, why don't